as I've gotten older, I've just learned to like stop when God tells me to stop. Mm-hmm. And I may not always know the reason why, but as I've grown, I don't really need the reason why.
Well, hello, and welcome back to Conquering Your Sexy. Before we get into this interview with Gaylyn Lareese, which I'm so excited for you guys to listen to, I want to redeem myself. Last week, I filmed a podcast episode and I had an unexpectedly hard time sharing my titles.
My name is Cristina Flores and I am... Man.
And I included it in the episode because it's part of my purpose to be committed to being vulnerable and truthful and honest and raw. And that is something that I struggle with.
That's funny you say that because that has been like the past 2 years, I would say, a place where I had a lot of insecurity because I didn't have a word or a title to describe what I'm doing. And if you tell someone you do YouTube, they're like, oh. You know, they're like, okay. Like a creative person, they're like, oh, that's cool. But like a person with like a regular job, they're like, oh, okay.
I am about to conquer that shit. So let's go for round 2. My name is Cristina Maria Flores Soto, and I am a multi-hyphenated and multi-talented human being and artist living in Los Angeles, California. I moved here about 6.5 years ago to pursue a career in dance, not really knowing what that would look like or what that would entail. And it's truly crazy to say that I've been here for that long because that's closer to a decade. So that really blows my mind. But I had this passion for building confidence in others a while ago. In college, my original goal was to become a person that would help women with eating disorders. So I got an educational background in nutritional sciences, biochemistry, and psychology. But my last year in college, I actually came out here to do a performance with the crew that I was training with. And I had the thought for the first time that I was worthy enough, valuable enough, capable enough to be out here with the other artists and the other dancers. And so 5 months before I graduated, I decided I was going to move to Los Angeles, and that was it. When I came out here, I was so confident. I was going to all of the classes that I could go to. I was entering workshops. I was doing any sort of performance I could hear of. And I was networking with a lot of people. And along the way, that confidence waned. I think that there's a comparison factor that is really prevalent out here. And I had to really dig deep to find where that confidence went and why it left. But I'm so glad that it was here when I got here because it allowed me to build a network very quickly. And Gaylyn Lareese is one of those people that I met in that bubble of time. I am so proud of her. And I resonate with her a lot. She's also a fellow science lover. And I think that both of us didn't have this streamlined dance career that maybe we envisioned, but all for the better because we found that there were things with a conventional dance career, the way that it looks here in Los Angeles, that didn't align with our values. And I've seen her carve out a space for herself and use all of her skill sets. And she's not afraid to fail, to be wrong, to try something new. So I wanted to interview her to get a peek into what this journey has been like for her and where she's going next. If you are a person who is shifting in your identity, if you want to reinvent yourself, if you're feeling like you want to quit, if your passion field is not what you thought it was, this episode is for you and you need to listen. So don't let my camera skills deter you from watching and listening. And I promise you that I'm working really hard to get better at all of this. So without further ado, I'm going to let Gaylyn and I take it away. Gaylyn, thank you for being here today. So Gaylyn has right now 12.2 thousand subscribers on her YouTube channel. Meanwhile, I just started and I have literally 35. And
yes, 35.
35. I met Gaylyn, I think in 2017 in Cisco's class.
Yeah.
Which is a heels class. And I was in a group with her and I noticed her And I walked up, I think afterwards, and I was like, hey, like, I think I got your number, but I asked you if you would be a part of my performance.
Yeah, at Jete or something. No, not Jete. The
Posers.
Yes.
Yes.
I remember I had on purple, like a purple Leo or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember that, but that's cool that you remember.
I was like, I found this like velvet leotard. And I was like, yes, purple velvet. Like we wear the weirdest shit
I know.
as dancers.
I know. I actually saw one of your videos that you were talking about like outfit ideas for heels classes, and I was like, that's genius.
Yeah, because you can end up wearing the same thing all the time and
Yeah.
then looking boring, which I learned from Aisha Francis. She was always like, come and try some different stuff. See how the girls react to it. You know, if the girls look at you funky, you probably look good. You know?
Yeah. Back to you. So I met her in Cisco's class. And I confidently went up to her and I was like, I want you in my performance. And it was her first performance. It was your first performance in LA, right?
Yeah, it was.
Big Beyonce number. Had like 20 girls. And she proceeded to do several projects with me and supported me through all these different endeavors, like if I want to do something on stage, off stage. And slowly I started to notice this shift in you. I started to notice it in your captions on your posts, where you kind of started like being like, hey, I have a lot of value. And one that I remember particularly was like, I have way too much value or worth, it's not worded perfectly, to just keep doing other people's stuff and not my own. It was something like that. And I remember I immediately commented, and I was like, I appreciate you so much for all of the things you've done for me, Gaylyn. I didn't necessarily think it was posed towards me, but I was like, I know Gaylyn's done a lot for me. No. So, but I started to see this shift in you as a dancer, like seeing that you were kind of like, I don't know if I want to do this dancer thing and book jobs in the way other dancers are doing it. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, your YouTube channel, you started posting like 4 years ago, but I saw a bigger growth, I think like 3 years ago. Yeah. And seeing the stuff that you put out and then helping dancers think about business and how they can grow in a way that maybe they never thought they could before. And I've been a part of your membership programs and all that kind of stuff. And it's been really cool to watch you grow. And I feel like you've, to me, kind of shifted identities maybe more than once, more than twice. So that's what I want to pick your brain about today. And see what that has been like for you.
That's interesting to hear that you see that on the outside, because I feel like sometimes when people are seeing me, I don't look like there's anything different going on. Like I don't feel like other people see the changes that I have on the inside. And that can be something that can be very difficult when you know that stuff on the inside is changing, and sometimes the outside perspective of you maybe doesn't change because you don't drive a nicer car or you don't live in a nicer neighborhood or whatever. And so it's hard to like see that transformation. But anywho, I feel like in the beginning, probably around when I made that post, it wasn't necessarily directed at anyone. It was more so just like I had been sitting on these ideas in my head at that point for like a year and some change. And I was always feeling like they were less important than me being a part of other people's stuff, because when I moved out here, I'm from South Carolina, so I didn't have a lot of connections with people. Like there aren't a lot of people where I'm from who moved to LA for dance, you know? And so when I moved here, I was like, I need to make friends with people out here who are doing stuff. And like, that has to be my priority, is getting around those people, getting them to like me, and so that they can keep using me and I can start booking jobs. And there were instances where that happened, and then I got in that space. And I think the biggest thing I've learned is that just because someone else dances, it doesn't mean that they're your people. And so I learned that, like, yeah, we both love dance. You know, we both really enjoy being in the studio, but like we're very different people. And so at the end of the day, if we didn't dance, I probably wouldn't be friends with you. I probably wouldn't know you, not you, but just people who I'd come across. And so I was like, okay, I need to stop valuing their projects more than mine, and like start making some of my stuff. And so that's kind of what that was. And it pushed me to accept that I was good at something else other than just dancing. And I think for the longest time, I had accepted this idea that like dance is my gift. That's what I'm good at. That's the thing that makes me valuable to people. And when I leaned into the possibility of me being good at other things, I found that there were all of these other things that I'm also good at, you know? And so that's kind of what that shift has been. And that kind of happens for me every 2 years or something like that. You know, I'm constantly trying to make sure that I'm finding a way to grow. And when I am growing, I end up finding that next branch that's like another gift that I have or another interest that I have that I want to reach for. And nobody else has the combination of gifts that I have. So why not use all of those to the fullest? And I think that's for everybody. Everybody has a very unique set of gifts and strengths and experiences. And if you learn how to hone all of those, like literally no one can replace you. You're irreplaceable because no one else is you, you know? But if you don't take the time to explore those, then you're stuck just trying to be the best dancer in the room. And
yeah,
you know, that's nearly impossible.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what the shift has been.
Yeah. I think as dancers especially, we find that our only value is in the gift that we think we have, and we think that's our only gift. And then there's a lot of sadness around realizing that gift actually, it wanes. I mean, I felt that with my knee surgeries. And then also, you know, if you're not the one that they want, which is 90% of the time, you know, what do I do now? So I think it takes a lot of internal purpose to find out like what is the other thing that I have to offer and to give. And that was one of the questions that I actually had for you was, and you kind of touched on it, you'd had these ideas for a year, you were sitting on them, but I was curious if you had this kind of digital creator life thrust upon you by your environment, or if it was something that you had kind of dreamed about for a while.
The digital creator aspect, I feel like it was definitely thrust upon me. I hate taking photos. I hate being on camera. I'm not, like, if you look through my phone, you're going to barely see any selfies. Like, I don't enjoy being on camera, but it felt like a step in the right direction because I loved watching YouTube content. I knew I had information that was going to be valuable to other people that I could share. Because I'd seen a lot of dancers who didn't, you know, I like I said, I came from a small town, but I did have experiences that a lot of kids didn't have growing up. I got to go to Dance Theater of Harlem during the summer when I was younger for like 3 summers in a row. I got to train at Philadelphia in Philly. And so I used to travel a lot as a kid, and gained all of this knowledge from all of these, you know, teachers who had been in New York since the 80s, you know, when like jazz was big, and I wanted to share some of that knowledge. And so doing it digitally just made sense. So that's kind of what made me embrace it. And then just, I think again, just knowing like who else is going to share it, you know, like I had seen kind of what the world of dance looked like on YouTube at that point, and it was a lot of either just strictly choreography stuff, or it was like lily white ballet centric women with very specific body types and very specific backgrounds and very specific access that I knew a lot of other people didn't have. And so I knew that there was like a thirst for the information that I had from people who didn't have access to those things. And so just doing it digitally made sense. But yeah, no, I had the ideas, but I didn't realize I was going to have to do it on camera until later. And I was just like, all right, well, well, let's figure out how to do our makeup,
Yeah.
so I can be prepared,
I'm relieved that you said that because I've already felt, and I actually do like being on camera and I do like talking and like all of that kind of stuff, but I've already sometimes gotten sick of myself where I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to hear my voice anymore.
Yes.
Or I don't really feel like looking at myself or like all that kind of stuff, but I feel the same thing, that there is value. And when there is a need for something and you have value to provide, I feel like you have to do it. You have to follow that.
Yeah.
But that's a relief to hear. I was also curious if you've ever thought of quitting. Have you ever along the way been like, fuck this?
Absolutely. Like at least 4 times a year.
Okay.
All the time. Oh my God, all the time. Like, and what's funny is I've heard like a lot of people who've built really great things, they say that all the time, that they want to quit.
Yeah.
I think because sometimes what we're trying to pursue can feel so much bigger than us. And there's so many things that truly are out of our control. We can't control these algorithms. We can't control who hires us and who doesn't. We can't control if someone sees our value or if they don't, and it can feel like a lot of output and not a lot in return for a very, very long time. And that feeling makes me feel like quitting sometimes. I think also sometimes it feels a little unfair, which can sound like, but like it can feel unfair that like, why do I have to be the one that like does this work and like makes this change and makes, but I do also strongly feel that like you can't change a situation being completely outside and removed from it. Like you have to be in it. You have to see how the players play in order to come in with a new play that's going to be a little bit better, that's going to service more people. And so it's just, our cross to bear, so to speak. It's like it gets a little hard, but I think that's what we were talking before about understanding like when to take a break. You learn it the hard way, you go hard, and then that's kind of when you feel like quitting, is when you're like depleted and burnt out and things aren't happening the way that you expected them to happen. And so you just go like, all right, well, I'm just gonna quit this. And then you quit it, and then a month in you're like, oh, I have this video idea. I'm like, that would make a really good topic for it. And it's like the purpose kind of like chases you. And so that's how I know that it's for me, is because when I do take a step back and I'm like, man, F this, like in a month I'm like, all right, so I have this idea for this video and I think it could go pretty well. And I think that's how you know if something is for you, if it's pursuing you,
Yes.
It's pursuing your heart.
So on that topic, how have you because I've seen a lot of amazing stretch videos, but I've also seen your DIY projects. And I've also seen, like I said earlier, what is the best outfit for a heels class? I've also seen your personal choreography. And so do you kind of just follow what you're feeling, what excites you? Do you kind of take data on what people are responding to? Like, how do you kind of determine what kind of content you're going to create next? Because it seems like your creativity kind of has no end. There's all of these different things on your page.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of those two. I think when I first started, it was very much do whatever interests you. So when I first started my channel, I was doing like sit down videos like these, and it was called A Brown Eye, and I would talk to dancers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
so that's how I
that.
started off. And then I realized, oh, nobody cares about these. All right, next. And then I started making videos about like dance tips and stuff like that, and I was like, oh, nobody cares about that either. And then I made stretch videos, and I was like, nobody cares about that either. And then slowly but surely people started to care about like all the stuff that I was doing. And over time I found that there were some things that I enjoyed doing more than others. And so it became after that like me figuring out, okay, what's my ratio for them versus me? Like how much of stuff can I do for them, and then after that, what stuff is just for me and I don't care about the views, So the Brown Eye videos that I did, those came back as like the conversations that I had, like the one that I had with Cisco on my channel, where I talked about his story. And so those kind of had a resurgence, and that was really just for me. That wasn't for anybody else. But then I know people love my stretch videos, and so then I'll do a stretch video after that. And that's for my audience. That's not for me. And so it's kind of like balancing how much, and I think it changes based on where I am in my life too. Like if I'm in a place where I'm in a very giving mode, then I will do a lot for them. I will do a lot of the them content, and that's the heels videos and the stretch videos and whatever. And then sometimes it's more just like a me time. And so you may get one stretch video, and then you're going to get some videos of me just talking and chatting and doing my makeup, and whoever vibes with it, you know? That's kind of also what the DIY videos are for me too, because it was another way for me to explore my creativity, because I felt like once you start to make even a little bit of money from YouTube, you can start to feel pressure to only do the kind of videos that make money. And then you're kind of just in a prison of your own making at that point, and you're kind of just stuck making what everybody else wants you to make, you know, when the reason why I started it was to make what I wanted to make. And so that can be like the hardest decision when it comes to doing content, is making the decision to be like, I know that this video is not going to do well, but I'm going to do it anyway because I want to do it. And over time, the cool thing with YouTube is that it's a long-term game. And so I've had videos that like 2 years later, all of a sudden it's like, pew, because it just hits, you know, after 2 years of it barely getting any views. So and to me, I look at that as like a reward for staying true to myself, you know? So that's kind of how I navigate it. It's not very linear. It's very just like, how am I feeling?
Yeah.
What do y'all want? Okay, let me see if I'm in the mood to do that. Sure, I'll give you some. And then I also use, I think also a lot of the YouTube tools to my advantage. I think that's the great thing about YouTube is they have a lot of tools to help you really understand your audience and get to know what they're responding to. And I use the community tab a lot to do polls and hear their opinions on stuff. But what I do is, instead of just saying like, should I do a stretch video, a heels video, or a conversation video, if I know I don't feel like making a heels video, I'm not even going to put that as an option, you know? So it's
okay.
like I'm letting you think that you chose, you know? And so then people, because they clicked, oh, I want a stretch video, and I gave that as an option, they're excited to see that I gave them what they asked for, but they didn't know that on the back end I only gave them options for things that I was willing to do.
That you were willing to do.
Yeah.
Very smart. I haven't really utilized the community tab yet, so I'm excited to play with that.
Yeah.
When do you think, you said that you saw a shift where people started caring about everything that you were doing?
I mean, maybe I have to correct that. I think it's not that people care about everything that I'm doing. It's that everything I'm doing has a person who cares about it.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, like, there are some people who aren't dancers. So they're not really here for, like, the deep dancer core information. But they just like hearing my thoughts on things, you know? And so those videos are for that person. The like conversation videos where they're like girl talks and I talk about, you know, being overwhelmed or confidence or whatever the heck, like that's for those girls. But then there are other people who are like, I want to know how to start a business. And so those videos are just for them. And if there's crossover, great. But the more you have like these different pillars of content, then you can just create mini audiences for each one. And then if they don't watch every single video, at least they're coming back for this one type of video. Yeah.
So what does your workflow look like in terms, I know right now you're on a little bit of a calmer kind of streak, but in the past, how have you managed your time around creating content, editing content, coming up with ideas, all of that?
So I guess it starts with the coming up with ideas. So I kind of let life inform my ideas and I just jot them down in my notes on my phone. So downtime is the best time for me to come up with ideas, because that distance away from your content helps you kind of look at things with a new view. And so like right now on my phone, I have like 10 different video ideas that I know I'm going to do when I come back. So that's kind of how it starts. And when I do that, if it's a video that's more structured, like a educational type video. I'll bullet out the main points that I want to hit. I'll already come up with the title ahead of time, so I'll do some research for a good title. I'll come up with what wording I want to be in the thumbnail, and sometimes I'll even come up with what I want the thumbnail generally to look like. And I do that simply by just looking at other videos that are in that niche, that topic, and being like, what works for that kind of video. And then when it comes to shooting the video, I have different kind of setups that I do for different types of videos, but I like to set up my lighting and all that kind of stuff the night before, so that when I get up in the morning, I'm not like setting stuff up and doing my makeup and printing out my outline and, you know, all that kind of stuff. My more educational videos get a full outline, but if it's like a talking just off rip video, then I'll just do more bullet points, like main points I want to hit.
How long from the idea to the actual making and putting it out typically? And I know it's been different for you because you've been at this for a while.
A lot of times I will plan out my videos for the month. So, and each week will be a video that hits a different pillar of mine. So it's like stretch video, talking head, educational, blah, 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 you know? And so each week, those are the videos that go out.
So you had a weekly video. That's what you were hitting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 4 videos a month. That was just really easy for me to keep track of. Because I also didn't want my quality of my videos to take a dip just because I wanted to like post more, because I tried that and your quality definitely takes a dip when you're the person who's doing all of the stuff. So after filming it, the first thing I do is I kind of go through and do like a swift edit on the video. So it's very much just taking out the big chunks that are definite no's, and then you get a concise version. The day that I film the video is also the day that I upload the footage into my camera or into my computer.
Okay.
Because I kind of have a fresh idea in my head after just filming it, the things that I want to take out. It just makes the editing a lot shorter if I do that immediately, and I color grade that immediately. So that's the first thing that happens. And the next day I do that swift edit through, take out those big chunks. And then after that, I've learned over time to give myself at least 3 to 4 days to edit the video, which for some people is like crazy because they edit in like a day, and I have no idea how they do that. But I've learned that if I don't take the 3 to 4 days, I end up leaving too much stuff that doesn't matter. And
because you want to keep it all?
Yeah, I'm too attached to it because I just filmed it.
Yes.
So I need to like take a step away from it and be like, okay, like what stuff is actually necessary for this video and what stuff isn't. And so yeah, the 3 to 4 days for editing, and then I upload. A lot of times it ends up being like the night before it goes up. And in that time I also, you know, sometimes the second day is the day that I'll edit the thumbnail. Sorry, this is all over the place. But
no,
the second
this is great.
day,
I'm like listening to all of this. This is for me.
Okay.
Because there will be, you know, maybe 50 people who see this. This is for me.
So like the second day is when I start working on the thumbnail. And a lot of times the thumbnail also, like when I have the finished thumbnail, it gets me excited about finishing the video.
Oh, yeah. I love your thumbnails, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
I went into Canva and I was like, how do I make my thumbnail look like Gaylyn's? Because you do a really nice border. You have the circles. I've looked at your page for lots of references.
No, that kind of stuff helps, because the reason why I do the border is because visually people get used to seeing that blue border, and they know, oh, that's a Gaylyn Lareese video. Click.
Right,
you know?
right.
So that's why I do that. But yeah, seeing the thumbnail helps me be excited about the finished product and makes me like, all right, let's finish this, you know?
Yeah.
So that's usually the second thing that gets done after the brush edit.
Can I backtrack a little bit? When you said you tried to research what a good title would be for your video, are you comparing to, you said you're comparing to other videos that are similar, but is there another tool that you use to look for good titles that will kind of get people to click?
So when I'm looking for stuff that is similar, I'm mainly looking for imagery for the thumbnail. So that's when I'm looking at similar stuff. And then when it comes to the wording, I have this plugin on my computer called Keywords Everywhere. I don't necessarily know how much I use it, but you may get some help from it. It just helps me kind of see, you can see kind of like trends of what people are searching at that time. It'll also show you things like how much views another person's video got in a day, how many views another person's video gets in, a month or whatever based on that topic. So sometimes those things have been helpful. Generally, what I do is I just go into YouTube and I go on like an incognito page and I think about if I were to type for looking for a video about this, what I would type in, and then you see the drop down of the suggested keywords. So like if I were to type in,
so you have a random account?
No, just go on your incognito page on Google
Chrome.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it'll drop down.
I just learned about that.
Yeah.
So that you don't get
stuff related to what.
Right. Or like if you're looking for flights.
Oh yeah.
Then they already
too.
know.
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
That too. But yeah, it'll give you like a drop down of like common words that people are searching, and then you'll be like, okay, that's how people are searching for that. So sometimes YouTube can just be the best tool to do that. Also, playing around with fonts in your titles as well can be helpful. The thing I was doing recently when I was editing my videos and uploading them was the first couple words would be all caps, and then I'd transition to regular words, like regular letters after that, just because it helps draw attention to it. I know a trend that's on right now is people start like making captions almost like newspaper headlines instead of based on keywords. So instead of making a video on like, here are steps for being more productive in your day, the title would be like, here's why you can't get enough done in one day. So stuff like that entices people to click. And sometimes those have worked for me, sometimes they don't. Sometimes I think that stuff works just for people who already have big audiences, and so there's no perfect key for how to do it well, but you learn what kind of stuff your audience reacts to.
I want to talk about opportunities that have come to you through doing YouTube, and the ones that you did want, the ones that you didn't want, and how you kind of shielded yourself from the opportunities that weren't right for you. And maybe were there any surprising opportunities that you were like, oh, I didn't know that this would come to me, and because I did this, I'm getting this door opened for me.
Yeah, no, I think the biggest opportunity that I've gotten so far from my YouTube channel has been being in an ad for a company called Nude Bar. They make tights and other, I guess you could say, like undergarments for dancers of different skin tones. And I originally reached out to them maybe 3 years ago, and was just like, hey, I have a dance audience. Do you need anything? And they were just like, yeah, send us some like little clips of you wearing the tights. We'll send the tights to you. I'm like, okay, cool. Wasn't paid or anything like, or maybe it was like $50 or something like that. But that just initiated our relationship, and that video, those little video clips that I sent them did extremely well. And I think it also just happened to be that like I had a really good skin tone match for those tights as well. And so they kind of wanted to continue that relationship. And from us building that relationship, specifically me with their marketing director at the time, I kind of just came to them and was like, hey, so I want to choreograph some stuff, and I think you guys would be a really great fit for it. I know how I would do it. I pitched it to them, and they were like, yeah. And so I got to make it and be in it, and it's now on their website. So
is this where you're kind of dancing through a hallway?
Yeah.
I love that video.
Thank you.
So is that the clip that you sent to them, or is that what they did for you?
No, that was the job that I pitched them. The original clip that I sent them, it was like they used it for a Facebook ad. It was just me standing up against a wall, like, and I snapped my fingers, and the tights changed from like these ashy colored ones to like the nice ones. And like they freaking loved it. And so, yeah, I got to continue building that relationship and just getting to know the person who runs that company. She also is a Black dancer, and she was passionate about, Black dancers owning businesses that have to do with dance, because there aren't a lot of Black owned businesses in dance. And so they were very open to me bringing ideas to them. So yeah, that was kind of like the biggest, cool. And it was cool because at that point I had worked with Brandon Esparza, the guy who basically does a lot of my like bigger projects, my video projects. So any of my choreo stuff, he's been the one to film it. by that point, we had such a good flow of working together that like doing that job was a piece of cake. And it was just like the perfect blend of like his really good creative skills and mine. And that's a relationship that I built from dance, just taking classes, because he used to film dance classes. And so that's how I got to know him, and we got to work together. And so it's like stuff just kind of like works together for your good when it's supposed to, you know? Yeah.
And have there been any opportunities that you were like, oh, that's not really something that I want?
Yeah. I think when your channel starts to get a little bit bigger, and mine is definitely not huge, but it's gotten bigger, just smaller brands start to reach out to you, and sometimes even larger ones. But I think the thing that I'm constantly thinking about is like, is this valuable to my audience? Like, are they actually going to care about this at all? You know, a lot of the stuff that I have promoted on my channel have been things that I actually use. And if I don't actually use it, it's something that I actually either would use, but maybe I'm just not in the space to use it anymore. Like the tights, like I don't take ballet anymore, so I'm not using tights a lot, but I had to use skin tone tights all the time growing up, you know, so I know that's a valuable product. But yeah, you can kind of smell when people are just trying to take advantage, you know, or trying to like jump on a train right now. It's like, oh, dancers are popular. It's like, yeah, but your product has nothing to do with my core values as a person or this channel. And like, that's the whole reason why this channel exists, is to like push these values forward. So if it doesn't contribute to that, it's gonna get a no from me. And I say no a lot, a whole lot. But it saves me from feeling guilt later. So if I know that something is going to make me feel like embarrassed that someone connects me to it later, because we've all done those jobs where like you see it later and you're like, oh my God, I hope no one ever brings that up. Ooh, gotta change my hair from that, you know, like that's not a good feeling.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to avoid that feeling as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really great advice. I'm really excited to hear a little bit more about your stretching retreat, because that's something that when I saw it, I was like, wow, how cool that you're getting to put that on. Was that an opportunity that you kind of got through your connections doing YouTube, or is it something that you manifested yourself outside of that?
So good news and bad news with the stretch retreat. I definitely feel like it's something that is valuable and that is meant to happen, but I just got the feeling that it wasn't supposed to happen right now. And I have had to learn to trust that feeling. I think one of the shifts that's happened in the past year or so with the stretching is I've really seen the value that stretching gives to people who are not dancers, like people who truly just don't have a relationship with their bodies. And that could be because they are just more sedentary. It could be because they've been told negative things about their body, and so they don't ever look in a mirror, and they don't understand when their body feels tense. And so that was the goal of the stretch retreat. That's still the goal if I get to do it, but I think for me, just something felt like now wasn't the right time, and I had to listen to that. But thankfully, the people who signed up, they were very like understanding. They're like, okay, well, when you have it, like just let me know. I do want to transition into doing in-person things at some point, because I know that's a way for me to truly connect to people in a way that I can't over just like a stretch video, you know? Like I want to be there to correct how you're standing and to help you feel what like this deep breath feels like as you're extending through a position. And I can't do that over a channel. But it just didn't feel like the right time. So I don't know when will be the right time. The great thing is I had the entire course, I guess you could say, like planned out. So whenever I'd want to pick it back up, I can whenever. And Nude Bar was actually down to be a sponsor for it. And so that was something I'd never gotten before, like having a brand sponsor something, and they were totally down for it. So I know it's something that is valuable and will be valuable. It just didn't feel like the right time.
Didn't feel like the right time. And was that because of your personal energy right now at this point in your life, or?
I don't know. You know, it's going to sound very like woo, but as I've gotten older, I've just learned to like stop when God tells me to stop. And I may not always know the reason why, but as I've grown, I don't really need the reason why. I just kind of need to like listen to it and trust it. And so that could be that something else is coming up in my life soon that like I need to be more available for, or there could have been a natural disaster that I was avoid. Like, you never know what it is, but I think if I were to get caught up in like the why, I would lose sense of the pride that I felt about what I was planning, you know?
Right.
So yeah, I don't know, but I look forward to whenever I do get to do it because I know it's gonna be bomb.
Yeah, me too. That's something I would love to do in the future, is host a retreat. So I was so excited. I was like, that's so awesome that she's doing that. And I saw that you had a sponsor as well. But also, I really love that you are listening to yourself, because I'm finding that too in this phase of my life, that when you got to sit down, you got to sit down. And anytime I get a no, like a physical, actual no from somebody else, or the feeling of a no, that it's just not meant for me.
Yeah. And I've been embracing, there's like a couple of different things that I've been embracing in the past 2 years. But one of them is like the phrase, just don't panic. Because I have had a history of just panicking when something happens that's out of my control. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Huh. You seem
cool
so
as a cucumber on the outside.
Chill.
Absolutely flailing on the inside. Like, and I heard this phrase. It was like, panicking does nothing for you because it makes you experience the bad situation twice. Once before it even happens, and then another time after it happens. So if it is going to happen, just wait until after it happens for you to like go nuts, if you are going to go nuts, you know? And so I've just been really embracing that. Like, I'm not going to panic. And I found a lot more peace, you know, in doing that. It doesn't make it any better. It doesn't make the situation solve itself. But it makes me not so attached to it. And I think that's also like, as a control person, like I love having control over things. I like my things this way, very much type A. I tend to spin out over things that I can't control. And it's like, well, that's a stupid waste of your energy. You cannot control that. Why spin out over something you had nothing to do with, you know? So
one of the things I love about how you describe yourself is, I think one time, maybe it was one of your classes when I was doing your membership, was you're like, I'm a professional Gaylyn. That's what I am. Because I think sometimes in these creative businesses, it's hard to find one title that encapsulates everything that you do and that you have to offer. And so I was curious if, because that was probably a year or maybe even 2 ago now.
Yeah.
How do you introduce yourself? How do you share with others what exactly it is that you do?
That's funny you say that, because that has been like the past 2 years, I would say, a place where I had a lot of insecurity, because I didn't have a word or a title to describe what I'm doing. And if you tell someone you do YouTube, they're like, oh, you know, they're like, okay. Like a creative person, they're like, oh, that's cool. But like a person with like a regular job, they're like, oh, okay. So I think now it kind of depends on the person that I'm around. If they ask me what I do, I'm generally like, I am a creative. I do content based around dance education, and I help dancers understand their body better. And so that's kind of where it starts. And then they're like, oh, what does that mean? And then I get to be like, okay, well, I do YouTube. I make content about stretching, but I also help people understand their core values if they want to build businesses, because a lot of dancers don't get to control their creative pathway. A lot of times we're kind of told what we should do. And then that kind of opens the door for me to just talk, and it doesn't have to be like this simple cut phrase, you know?
Yes.
And I think that's the thing, is that because we're human beings, we want everything to be so like black and white, cut and dry. Here's the category it fits in. But most things don't. And even if you ask people who do work in those kind of jobs, they also feel the same way about their job, that it's not cut and dry, that they kind of dibble and dabble between 2 industries, and they, you know, like, so I think that's one thing that's really cool about the world of work now, is that people are starting to create more conversation around like, I don't just do one thing. I have a bunch of different skills, and here's how I service the company that I'm a part of right now, or here's how I use those different skills under this production company that I own. You know, I think it's more conversational now rather than like, I do finance, you know?
Yes. That is really, really good for me to hear, I think, because I've been feeling a sense of, I think, worry sometimes on how I present myself and not really knowing what's the right word, because I just feel like there's so much that I do. And I've seen, like I said, with you, this shift in your identity where I feel like you really understand your value, really understand your worth, and you are your business. You are the value, regardless of whatever space you enter. So I love that answer. I want to know where the next kind of decade for you, where it goes. Because I know you said you kind of change every 2 years.
Yeah.
But if you could kind of give me a picture of what your dream looks like in the next 10 years. I mean, do you see yourself doing YouTube for a lot longer? Do you see it kind of phasing out?
I do see myself doing YouTube. I don't ever want to become, now watch me say it and then in a couple years I'll do it. But I don't ever want to become that person that's like, just vlogs their lifestyle, like the things that they do, because then my life would become this show essentially. I want it to stay about dance. I want it to stay about creative freedom and creative exploration. And so that may look like me sharing more behind my projects down the line. It may look like me still continuing to give more educational type business videos. It may look like me exploring my other creative interests. But it's never just, I just don't ever see it becoming like, here's what I bought today. Which, no shade, but just like, I have people who make those videos and I love one video. Like, I don't need 5 of that,
Right,
you know?
Right.
And that's something that I've been very aware of right now too, is that social media is such a marketing tool and it's being used for so much consumerism right now. And I'm not going to say that I'm anti being a part of it, because I've made videos about like, here's these things that I've purchased for dance or whatever. But I just want to be aware of how much that is seeping into what my content becomes. I don't want to be the person who's like constantly encouraging people to purchase things. I don't ever want my channel to take that turn. So that's what I see with my channel. I want to be a name that like people know, which sounds very full of myself. Not necessarily that like people's grandma would know, but like if you know anything about entertainment, you would know who Gaylyn Lareese is. That's what I want. I do see myself giving myself more freedom to explore my choreography. I see myself getting to spend more time with my family. And hopefully the choreography stuff being able to provide me the opportunities to spend more time with my family. And like just getting to a point where it's like, it's funny. I saw someone talking about this the other day. The first like 10 years or so, it's a lot of like doing, like the build up. And then after that, it's more like maintenance on what you've built. So hopefully I get to the point where like it becomes more maintenance and like adding things that feel interesting, but not necessarily like trying to build.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I see.
Ooh, maintenance phase.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see more of your artistic work and your choreography, and that lending you to live the life that you want to live. And I really want to thank you for having this conversation with me. I've learned a lot.
Oh, good.
And I'm excited to see what other things you do, because you truly, every time I turn around the corner, I feel like I see you doing something from an outsider's perspective. you're always changing, you're always growing, you're always shifting the way that you present yourself, and you're always providing value. And I'm always here and along for the ride to support whatever it is that you do, because I truly think, and I tell you this all the time in voice memos, and I'm like, you're such a high quality person.
You really do.
Because I just
so
feel it.
appreciative of that.
I just think you're such a high quality person, and I think you'll be able to be successful in whatever thing you decide to do next.
Thank you. Thanks for
having me. Thanks everybody for watching and tuning in. I hope that you guys get a lot from this episode. If you're a content creator, or if you're just wondering what you should do next to kind of transform yourself and your life and your career and your business. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.